Hello and welcome to our term project for object-oriented programming. It's called Space War Program, Space War Game, and this is Sprint 2. My name is Kofi John.
My name is Jan Bojo.
Okay, so in summary, the gamer missile creates an explosion effect when it reaches the target. The small UFO can travel horizontally without user input. The small UFO can shoot missile. The small UFO missile can travel to the initial shooter location. So let's break that down and we can run the program so you can see. So for our first slide, as a gamer, I want to move the shooter without leaving the game scene so that the shooter does not disappear from the screen. The acceptance criteria involved here are that basically the shooter does not move past the boundaries of the window. So when it gets to the right boundary, even after you hit the right arrow key, it should not move past it. So the shooter does not move past the right boundary after the right arrow key is pressed. The shooter does not move past the left boundary after the left arrow key is pressed. The shooter does not move past the top boundary after the top arrow key is pressed. The shooter does not move past the lower boundary after the down arrow key is pressed. So let's run the program so we can see. So we're very close to the lower boundary, so let me test it here. So pressing the down key when nothing's happening. I'm gonna go to the right boundary, press the right key, nothing happens there. I'm gonna go to the top, press it. Right now I'm pressing the top arrow key, nothing's happening, which is what we want. Going to the left boundary, pressing the left arrow key, nothing's happening. And that concludes slide 1. So moving on, as a gamer missile, I want to create explosion effect when I reach mouse press location so that I can destroy the target. Acceptance criteria here are the missile produces an explosion effect when it reaches the mouse press location. The explosion radius increases to a radius of 35 pixels. Let's take a look. So I'm gonna put my mouse here and fire some missiles uh, so that we can test. So it's traveling to the mouse press location. We see the explosion effect. It increases to 35 pixels. So moving on. As a gamer missile, I want to decrease my explosion effect so that I can disappear from the screen. The missile radius stops increasing at the radius of 35 pixels. The missile disappears from the game scene once explosion radius reaches 35 pixels. So um, here, I'm gonna fire some missiles so we can see what happens when the explosion happens. So at 35 pixels, there's no more growth in the radius of the explosion and it disappears. The reason why we separated out these two, the creation of the explosion and the disappearance of the explosion, is because they are two different things. So um, the first slide talked about the creation of it, and this is talking about how it disappears. So 35 pixels is basically the cutoff at which it disappears. So moving on to slide number 6.
All right, this is Jan, and I'm going to take over for the rest of the slides. As a small UFO, I want to fly horizontally back and forth so that the gamer cannot shoot me easily. So let's go to the running program and have a look at this. As you can see, here is what we call the small UFO, and it can fly horizontally from the right, and when it touches the edge, it goes back to the left, and it follows that movement all along, all the time. As a small UFO, I want to move at a moderate speed so that I can avoid the shooter missile. So you see that the speed is not too fast or not too slow, and then if we shoot, there are chances that the UFO can avoid the shooter missile. Let's jump to the next slide. As a small UFO, I want to shoot missiles so that I can attack the gamer. The acceptance criteria, the missile is directed to shooter position to make precise shot. The missile travels from UFO to shooter location. So as you can see, here are the missiles that are shot by the UFO. It shot the missile at different time, and then it tries to get the shooter. Let's go to the next slide. As a small UFO, I want to die after a gamer missile hits me so that I disappear from scene. Acceptance criteria. The small UFO turns red upon being shot. The small UFO moves toward the bottom of the screen. So let's see this in action. So we're gonna try to shoot the small UFO. Oh, I missed it. Here. You see how it turns red and it leaves the screen. Let's go to the final slide. As a UFO missile, I want to be shot by the UFO so that I can. So as a UFO missile, I want to be shot by the UFO so that I can travel from the UFO to the shuttle position. Acceptance criteria: the UFO shoots the missile. The missile travels to the shuttle location.
Hmm.
Let's see that by running the program. So you see that every time the UFO missile comes from the location of the UFO, small UFO position, and then it comes here at the initial position of the shooter.